leading the charge to make the 2024 Broker Carrier Summit possible, and we are so excited to have their support. In case you haven't heard, TAFS offers much more than freight factoring. It provides a comprehensive support system for trucking companies of all sizes, specializing in fast and efficient invoice factoring with the ability to pay carriers in as little as 1 hour. And TAF's services go well beyond factoring, offering a fuel card that unlocks major fuel discounts, flexible business loans that are designed to cater to the distinct needs of a carrier's operations, a dedicated, responsive client experience team, and much more. Blackbox Logistics is a 3PL freight brokerage based out of Birmingham, Alabama. Blackbox Logistics was formed in 2020 by 3 friends, Logan Dyer, William Graves, and Will Hopkins, in a basement office with the goal of bringing transparency around the clock communication and hassle-free customer experience to the table. Loadbase is a logistics software solution that simplifies the process of tracking carriers. Multi-service fuel card, the industry's first fuel card, was created by an over-the-road truck driver in 1978 to offer a safe, simple, and cost-effective way to handle fuel and trucking expenses. Initially, it addressed safety concerns of carrying cash on the road. Today, it combats advanced fraud with best-in-class technical and personal support. Sales-CRM is built for freight broker and agent sales teams. Manage your shipper prospecting and follow-ups. Organize your carriers in the lanes they run. HD Ships is a leading logistics provider specializing in sustainable and tech-driven freight solutions. With hubs in Reno, Phoenix, and London, we deliver comprehensive services, including full truckload, expedited cross-border, and intermodal freight. Leveraging proprietary technology, we offer 24/7 tracking, real-time visibility, and advanced automation to ensure safe, compliant, and efficient transportation. Our commitment to sustainability enables clients to offset emissions through carbon credits, aligning logistics with environmental goals. At HD Ships, we prioritize transparency, reliability, and exceptional customer service, empowering clients to achieve seamless, sustainable logistics solutions worldwide.
I almost wanted to say happy Friday because I'm so used to doing Friday shows. We're doing Thursday this week.
Yeah, switching up the scheduling this week. It's been Friday for who knows how many consecutive weeks.
We are going to be doing a Friday podcast, just not our show.
Yeah, we'll be on the Logistics Lounge tomorrow.
Yeah, so 4 to 5. It'll be a good time. Well, shout out to our sponsors, Multi-Service Fuel Card. Been around since 1978. Patricia, Jessica, great people. They got some new stuff coming out. Check out their pages. Great company. You can be for brokers as well. Black Box, Will's company, HT Ships. You want to be an agent? Love to chat with you. Load Base. They just got a new office today. That was cool to see.
Yeah, 100%. They've got a cool product. I did a demo on it. Cool thing about Load Base, it's real-time tracking. A lot of software will ping, so you get updates every 15 minutes or so. Standing them, their product is live. So if you're ever in a crunch or maybe a high-value shipment, that can come in handy. So I would encourage anybody in the market for tracking to hit up Stand and check out their product.
Yeah, definitely. Sales Dash. We talk a lot about them. Freight Specific CRM, great product. You were just down golfing with Josh and Drew, right? Just the other weekend in Georgia.
Yeah, just Josh. Yeah, we met up in Georgia and we were able to play last Saturday. But yeah, great product. Black Box uses Sales Dash and really can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, a couple of our agents use it as well, and you'll love it. And our banner sponsor, Taft's, top 10 factoring company, great communication, great people. Definitely reach out to Rob or Ryan.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm pumped for the show this week. So against my better judgment, we're having on a Black Box customer. So I made a post earlier, and hopefully Dustin will accept my apology in advance for the DMs that he'll likely receive after this. But yeah, Dustin's a Birmingham guy. We've been working with Oxylance since inception. It's actually a rep that I'd worked with at Roadrunner previously is good friends with Dustin. They've been working together for quite some time, and Oxylance is a really cool company. They're based out of Birmingham, also out of I guess they have a location in East Chicago, Indiana. But Dustin can correct me if I misspeak, and we'll go ahead and bring him on stage. Hey, Dustin.
Hey, Dustin.
Hey, y'all nailed it on the head. That's right, Will.
Awesome. Yeah, Dusty Dog. Well, yeah, we appreciate you carving out some time to join us this afternoon.
I had to. Y'all got the best freight podcast out there, so I had to jump on and give a little experience and some stories that we've dealt with through the years. So
awesome. Yeah,
I'm excited. I don't know your background. Will does, but from what Will said, you have a great story. And I guess for people who don't know you, maybe just start with a little bit about your history, how you got into freight, what you're doing now.
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I was a baseball wannabe who wanted to keep playing. Skill set did not allow that. So I had to get a real job. Anyways, I started out working in the plant here at Oxylance, running not all the machines, but a good portion of them. So I've got a real good understanding of how everything works. And the guy who was doing all the freight logistics for us, he'd been with us about 15 years, did an incredible job. Anyways, he announced that he was going to retire and become a full-time coyote hunter. He still posts about it on Facebook. So that's one heck of a follow on Facebook. Anyway, so since he was stepping out, he tried to teach me the ropes on how he does things. And me being kind of new school, I completely disagree with everything that he did. And, I learned through the fire. Will's mentioning my buddy Chris Sturma, who works for him, and Chris can attest that back when I first started, what I would do is I would send out a group email for a load to probably 15 to 20 different brokers, and they'd be fighting over $10 margins basically, and it did nothing but cause me headaches. And trucks and drivers were saying, "Oh yeah, I'm there. I'm 10 minutes out," and he was 2 cities over. And anyways, fishing for the bottom of the barrel was a complete nightmare, and I finally got some sense about myself. And anyway, so I work very heavily with Chris Sturma and Black Box. So
yeah, I want to touch on that just because I think it's an interesting concept. So I've never been in a shipper role, but it's kind of similar brokering the freight with the carriers, right? And so like from an outside perspective, it sounds like that was your experience, like going into it. It's like, it makes sense, right? To get, like 15 people at once going over it. Let's get the cheapest rate. But then usually on the back end, it'll cost you in the service. And then if you're able to kind of like calculate the cost for your time for that, it's just like not worth it. So it sounds like, I don't know, we can relate to that as brokers, because we can do the same thing, right? Like when you're emailing the brokers, we could email the carriers 15 ways, and it's the same thing. And it's one of those things where, yeah, like you kind of have to like learn by going through it, I feel like. And we got a big hello from Marco coming from Team One. He works with Chris.
Yeah, Marco does a great job for us.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I was spending 2 hours on a load going to Birmingham to Tell City, arguing over $50 margins, and it's going, this is such a waste of my time. And at least in my experience, what happened is if once you're really fishing for the bottom of the barrel, you're also getting bottom of the barrel drivers, and they would cause issues in our back lot. Going, I've been here for 45 minutes and no one's come over here. It's like, hey, bud, we all working. People are driving, doing their job. I mean, so you pay for a service both with a broker as well as the driver. So it's got to be a mutual relationship.
Yeah. Hey, Dustin, touch on what Oxylance does for those listening that don't know. And even me, it's like you've been working with Chris for like quite some time. I never like really understood what Oxylance did, and we even have customer pickups from Oxylance with one of my accounts which you know about. And it's like I really like went over there to you guys' space and like saw it. It's like, man, you guys do some cool shit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Will came over and brought breakfast for the whole crew. Very appreciative. But yeah, so I'm going to just give you the spiel. We're an exothermic cutting manufacturer. So what that means is basically a giant steel tube that's clean for oxygen use. That's the most important part to realize. It's a cleaned oxygen product that is used to cut ferrous and non-ferrous metals. So if you've got scrap metal, it would be used to cut that. Or if you have something as thick as I sent y'all a picture, y'all might be able to pull it up, but a frozen ladle. So a ladle in a steel mill could be, 200 tons. And that's on the top side, but a very big chunk of metal. And there's really only a couple of ways to cut it. And they use my product to cut metal so they can then be remelted. That's kind of the big hitter for where my product's used. But another way to think of in a steel mill is anywhere molten metal is moving from the furnace to the ladle to the tundish. So these are all different orifices that are holding metal. Anywhere molten metal is traveling to a different orifice, to a different holding tank, basically, that'll get clogged up with steel, with slag, sand. So they'll use my product to basically clean it. So it's a lot of maintenance work in these big giant mills. Basically, and dumb it down for everyone else, because I know that's a lot to imagine. It's a giant lightsaber, and it cuts anything and everything.
It's really cool. I'm trying to get these, which I'll have them up in a second. Probably won't be while we're talking about, but these pictures that you sent us so people can kind of get a visual of what you're describing. I think that's the best way to explain it. The ending is like it's just a big like molten lightsaber. It's pretty neat. We're still waiting on the invites for Chris and I to come over there and cut some stuff.
Oh, come on, we'll have you over. No, that's no problem. We try to cut at least once a month. We're trying to increase that a little more, but yeah, we'll definitely get y'all over.
Have you been to the Black Box office, Dustin?
Yes, it is very nice. I got to go to their not homecoming, but the opening ceremony or whatever they had. It was very nice. They got some great art, graffiti art for all their when you walk in, and then it's just a very nice office. They've done a top-notch job.
I was down the day after it, so I got to see it too. It's a really nice office.
Yeah.
So I guess you mentioned some other things too that you kind of changed or did differently besides obviously the mass distribution list. What were some other things that you kind of brought in or implemented that have kind of helped the logistics process?
Yeah. Well, I dwindled that list from 20 people down to probably 5, 10, and then kind of kept dwindling it down. And kind of what really worked for us is we would really focus with 2 or 3 people, because then they know all my lanes, they know where the freight's going, and they're pretty consistent on where the trucks are. And if there's ever a tightness in truck availability, then we can be transparent, and I've got no problem saying, hey, if you got to make more money on this one, that's fine. You do what you got to do. Or something else that we do a lot with Black Boxes. Hey, I don't have much margin in this. I really need you to be competitive. And Chris, I'll give him credit, will send out a lot of trucks at his freight rate, and I'll be like, hey, I'll get you on the next one. So it was really just getting good relationships and being able to, be honest with my broker and just tell him, hey, this is the scenario. This is great for you, bad for you, but we got to work together.
Yeah. So what you're describing there, the concept of like, okay, you, like when you say you don't have, like you, Oxylance might not have much margin, so you need the freight rate to be at a certain level, right? And you're working with one or two people. Like Chris can maybe take a short-term loss or a loss in that shipment because he knows that he's going to get more business, will make it back, right? I made a post about that. Man, this is a really long time ago, but I've got a similar setup, and I threw something out there. It's like, as long as the averages make sense and like it's okay for the transportation company. Like if we lose on lane A, but then we make money on lane B, and then you average them together, then like it's okay, it's still profit. And there's just like this one guy like arguing with me about it. He's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, no, I don't think it's stupid at all, right? Like, so if and when you're working with somebody that close, like that makes sense, right? So I love that you said that and mentioned it.
Yeah, and I'll kind of even go further. I'm going to keep putting feathers in Chris's hat, so hopefully this will help him at some point. But you know, what our business is really good in is emergency shipments. So we've had 20 rush shipments. Hey, got to go today since January 1. So that's kind of what our business is, and we load a lot of things after hours. Well, Chris has come up with me, you know, at 7 p.m. to help load a truck. I mean, really, he was just kind of there for cracking jokes while I'm on the forklift, but nonetheless, you know, he was there. But you're exactly right, Will. You know, I can't be beating a broker down because everyone's got to make money in this. Everyone's got a family to come home to. Everyone's got goals that they want to achieve. And if I'm trying to hamstring you over $50 over and over again, that's not a good partnership. And me and Chris have joked about this, but we're going to be doing freight together for the next 20 plus years, as long as we're in the industry, as long as nothing crazy happens. So
yeah, that's awesome. I also want to pick your brain, I guess, on your experience with like when you're describing going from these 15 to 20 providers, then kind of honing into maybe like 1 to 3. Do you experience that the benefit of the broker knowing your operations better, so you avoid maybe some miscommunication? Like you're talking about Chris, like he's been to your facility, he knows how everything runs, he knows your hours, he probably knows your customers, how they prefer things. When you're using those 15 to 20, did you experience any issues, right? Again, like they're shipping to location X, but the guy doesn't know the procedure, so then something gets messed up. Do you find that it saves you some time and headache there as well?
Yeah, when I first started, I had to come load a truck after hours, another emergency shipment. All of my product, 99% of it is 11 foot long. Well, guy sent in a 9-foot van. I'd been there for 2.5 hours waiting on a van. Hey, Dustin, I'm 20 minutes away. Oh, traffic, I'm 20 minutes away. Finally shows up. I can't even load his van. So then head explodes, call someone else, and it just became a nightmare honestly. And another good thing about Chris is when things have messed up in the past, and hey, guy was supposed to be there at 12. One of my guys may have to stay overtime. He's Venmo'd and sent guys cash or brought biscuits. Like, hey, this is my bad. This was a complete mistake on my end, and he's made it right. So relying on the 1 or 2 guys, that can happen because I can give them more volume of my business, so they can then do these types of things.
Yeah, no, that's really
great. Great point. How many brokers calling you, cold calling you, cold emailing you, kind of know, and we just, talked about Chris and kind of knowing about your business, the 9-foot example. How many brokers calling you are actually doing their research, or they're just telling you, hey, I have trucks in Birmingham, or I can save you money? Like what percentage of kind of the outreaches actually kind of know your business or put some kind of time into it?
Probably 1% know my business. The other 90% are just, they can go on Google Maps and say, I unloaded O'Neill Steel or Nucor Birmingham all the time. I got trucks in the area. And I probably I joke with some other people about this. I probably get 4 calls a day, and then there's no telling how many emails. So it's just people grinding. People are trying to get sales, and I respect it. I get it, but I'm not here to listen for it.
Yeah, no, I get that. We got Marcus said one of his favorite. Well, I'm not going to throw out the blame thing. Marcus tuned in. He's locked in right now. Seems to be a big fan of the Dusty Dog. But yeah, no, it's what you're describing. Yeah, like Sturmo, like Chris is great, right? And he's I would say he's our best broker. He's been doing it a while, and like what you're describing, I think is what. So one of the main things, there's a lot of things that separate him from your average or even your your good or great brokers is things like that, right? Like if and when things go wrong, because problems are inevitable, at least with my perspective. Like we're dealing with, like we're brokering to transportation providers, like whether things happen, right? But it's not about what happens, but how do you handle it? How do you make it right? And like what you're saying, Chris offering, or not just offering, but doing it, like Venmoing somebody to stay late or whatever he needs to do to make that right with you guys. I think that that's a missing piece for a lot of people. I think when you're talking about these relationships with these customers that you want to have and continue working with them, like if and when something messes up, right? Like what do we do? Do we just say like my bad, or do we like actually take action to make it right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're all people here. We're all working, and you breaking down that barrier and being doing something nice for somebody. I mean, it goes a long way. It does.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah. So Matt asked, is like, how many people like know your business? You guys are a pretty like niche business, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not many people doing what you guys do.
Yeah, very few. There's very few that do it.
So go ahead, Matt, if you're going to ask something.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, do you have some examples of maybe, for some sales reps listening out there, maybe some good cold calls or cold emails? You got obviously the new course deal, or saying you have trucks in the area. It wasn't good, but you mentioned you have maybe 1%. Are there any in like the last year that maybe stick out, or last 6 months of maybe good outreaches you've gotten?
Really, the only people that if you're sending a phone call, or if you're calling in, or you're sending an email, there's very little chance. The best way you're going to be able to get a hold of me is by coming to the door. If you bring donuts, that's great, because I hand it off to the guys in the plant. But really, you got to come in person, because I just don't have time to listen to a freight phone call when that's a part of my business where I'm just not concerned with. So I wish I had a good cold call example. I mean, I've had a few that I've kind of laughed at with a guy and like, hey, dude, I know you're doing what you got to do, but I'm not your guy. If someone at least comes off and can get through me being a jerk, I guess, on the phone, and I can listen out to them, I'll give them a few companies that I work with that are like, hey, I know they always need help with freight. So if you come off as a genuine person, then that's a good way to at least get me to start talking.
That's
a good. Will and I are probably about to say the same thing. Go ahead, Will.
I would say, I mean, that's a good point for like anybody listening, right? It's like what you're talking about, like the willingness to like help. You're okay, like you're not their guy, right? But if whatever you kick it off to an extent, right? You're willing to like give them some good leads, right? It's like one of those things where I think that people so often, like when they hear no, they just kind of like shut down. But like maybe like explore it a bit, like who like what you're talking about. Ask the prospect, whoever you're calling, if they like know of anybody, right? And then that's a lead there. So I think that oftentimes people hear no and they just shut down and they just 86 it, when really you can probably do something with it, get somewhere with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that starting off a conversation, hey, I've got trucks in the area, is not how you're going to get me to start talking. I mean, you gotta, hey, how you doing? You having a good day today? Like, at least get me off the track of me knowing that you're a freight broker calling to get loads. That's you got to trick me a little bit to at least get me to start talking.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, Marco's tuned in. He's locked in right now. He really seems to be a big fan of the Dusty Dog.
How many people show up in person down there? I know you mentioned that was kind of a good way to get to you. How often is it that one of your current brokers or a prospective broker? How often is it that someone just kind of shows up?
Prospective broker, maybe once a month. But I use Chris, and I use my neighbor with Landstar. So I only use two guys, but yeah, really it doesn't happen much. More of the LTL companies, the Estes of the world, the ABF. Frank with ABF came by yesterday and was just chatting about how they believe freight's going to really increase this year. I really appreciate when people, at least when they come in, they at least give me some insight on what they see in the market. So at least I'm learning something from a sales call. Then it's not just hey, what can you do for me? It's also, hey, this is what we're seeing out here. Maybe this will help you in your position.
How do you like LTL compared to truckload? in your position?
Well, we ship LTL every day. If I could distill mills of my product, we would do it on everything. The problem with our product is it's long, and the palletizing of it is just, it gets damaged a lot. So we deal with a lot of damages, a lot of freight claims, just because it's hard to move a 10-foot piece of pipe from a truck to a terminal to another truck, and then it's getting onloaded, offloaded multiple times. So that's really where our biggest grief comes in. But rates are, I mean, it's super cheap to ship that way if you got the right product dimensions, for sure.
You guys have I think I actually helped your LTL rep move.
You did, Sue. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sue. Yeah, she's great. And I know that. Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked with Chris about some of your LTLs. Most of them are that get that overlink charge, and it seems like Sue's got a good grasp on maybe like some tariffs or some kind of like cheaper price. Because remember, we ran a couple, and we were way high. So it seems like Sue's a great fit. So that's another good point, right? So it's like, okay, you really like Chris, but Chris isn't the best fit for your LTLs. So like, you know, you need, as a broker, I don't want to try to like say I can do everything the best, right? Like if LTL is not the thing, then like maybe don't push that, right? So for anybody listening, it's kind of good to like focus on what you're good at.
You got someone from Sweden listening, Will.
Yeah, and I was gonna also say,
The comment, appreciate you tuning in.
Right on. I mean, I would agree with that too. Like, you know, I've never, like, once a year maybe I'll send black box, you know, LTL rates to see if that's in their ballpark, and it hasn't been. But I did the same with drayage, and they used to not be able to really do much, and now Chris is moving a little bit of drayage for us. Not that we import much, but y'all have been able to kind of develop your company and get new efficiencies and, you know, new skill sets. And so it's just if you're good at it, let's talk. If you're not, hey, we'll circle back in a year or two and see if maybe this is in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, man, he's done a great job with the drayage. To be frank, like I still don't fully understand drayage. Same thing with reefers. Like I just don't know much about it, but he's really
love reefers.
I've said it so many times. I moved one reefer load. It was my first load ever. It was my last reefer load ever. But I mean, that said, like we have guys that do reefer, right? And like that's the beautiful thing about freight and transportation. There's so much out there to learn. So like I don't think anybody ever gets to a point. And like things are constantly changing and evolving. Like even like the operating systems that people are on. Now you got automation, AI, all this stuff. There's just so much out there, and there's so much opportunity. So I mean, like even going back to like the last year and like this freight recession, right? Like there's still so much out there, so much to learn. So like that's one of my favorite things about freight is just all the different, you want to call it nuances, modes of transportation, just everything that goes into moving product. It's quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? What's kind of the future, I guess, for you guys? Do you guys do like a lot of business in a specific region, or you know, or kind of, we're talking about specific types of freight, drayage, LTL, but are you guys more like regional, or you guys kind of sell your product all over, or what's kind of like your guys' kind of customer look like?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Anybody that melts metal is kind of a customer of ours or perspective, and we ship across the country. We do ship. We have a couple of really good customers in Canada, not so much in Mexico. I've got one good mine down there that does use a lot of our product, our burn-in bars. But yeah, it's across the country, and we really just utilize flatbeds for most of it, and then smaller cutting jobs where they're going into a rundown plant and they're cutting down a machine. Those we can kind of utilize some of the LTLs, the enclosed vans, but just for, you know, ease of unloading and avoiding damages, we normally ship just flatbeds. And Hopkins probably heard it, flatbeds, 4-foot tarps, baby. Come on, bring them in.
You guys ever have any out of like someone from Alaska or Hawaii or somewhere just, you know, crazy request your product?
Yes, and those are always very fun because, you know, we'll ship to California, and then California puts it on a boat, or we also sell, you might be able to see up top here. We also sell some smaller versions of our product, which we call, our SureCut. It's just a smaller lance. And we can put that on UPS, FedEx, and we can ship that around the world.
Yeah, you also do some, which I want to show this. I got this from Dustin a couple months back. I think you guys should add this to the to a website or something. It says Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Pretty neat. So like, for example, like this, how did you make this? Does it have anything to do with Oxylance? How this is?
No, there's a laser company here in Birmingham, and I just had a funny idea. I'm like, I love Superman, and I originally made it for Women of Steel. Matt or Hopkins, you didn't get that one, but
I know Bailey's got one.
Yeah, Bailey, of course. But some of my suppliers that I really like, I wanted to give them something that was just different, and I love the idea of Superman. So I just put Woman of Steel, and actually the owner of our company, she got the original one. It's huge, blown up, and it's actually on aluminum, so it's a little contradictory, but yeah, it just goes back to giving people just something that's nice, and it's just, that was $10. It was nothing, and it's just goes a long way. I mean, you got it in your office, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's awesome, right? Like, so, I mean, that's something that I don't want to say we struggle with it, but like when we get new customers, we write handwritten letters, and we do like a little, you want to call it like a swag bag, like a little like truck or maybe like a hat or something, but something like this, it's so unique, right? Like that'll like stick with somebody. So like if and when, I don't know, you just want to send somebody something nice rather than doing like a Applebee's gift card, you get like a Man of Steel like that. That's really smart and creative.
Thank you. Well, we've actually upgraded, Will. We might have to get with the team, but now we got a phone case, put your phone on there, Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm gonna have to get you hooked up, buddy.
Some cool stuff. You guys both have nice offices. You got to maybe get someone to replace his Michael Vick jersey over there. But
yeah, that's get mixed reviews on the Mike Vick jersey. And then I've got John Daly next to him, and then Mike Tyson. So like maybe I should get some more wholesome athletes in the office. But it'll do for now. But Matt probably doesn't need one. He's more of a reefer guy.
I did not do much flatbed. I am more of a food reefer, but I think that's kind of important. I wouldn't understand. Will understands your product, does a lot of flatbed. Like geometry wasn't my specialty. Like construction isn't either. Like a lot of that stuff doesn't make sense to me. Whereas food, is tangible, was easy for me to understand. That's the fun thing about freight, though. I mean, you can target so many different shippers, so many different people that do different things. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, is there anything that we haven't brought up? I feel like we've covered a lot, but is there anything that we haven't touched on that maybe you wanted to touch on?
No, I mean, I kind of gave you all a good rundown on Oxylance. I guess the only thing I'd want to touch on is something that I really learned kind of growing up in baseball, but really taking it to heart here at Oxylance is really relying on people that are veterans in either your industry or, if you're lucky, in your company, and really relying on them and asking them some dumb questions. I tell people all the time, I'm constantly throwing something against the wall to see what sticks with all these crazy ideas I have. And I'm lucky to have some really good mentors in my industry and my sales reps that I rely on. So I really just kind of tell anyone out there, hey, if you're new to freight, new to the steel industry, find someone that's crazy enough to listen to your ideas and just pepper them all day long with whatever you might think is a good idea and see what happens.
Yeah, I love that. Well, awesome. Yeah, I mean, so my main takeaways I got from talking with you, like one is like for anybody out there, brokers or maybe carriers look to provide value before you look to get something from somebody. It sounds like that approach has worked with you in the past, and I think that's kind of universal with human nature, as opposed to people coming in and kind of like hard selling. And then too, like, don't be afraid to like innovate. So like even like going back to the sign, like that's something like maybe like it was like a crazy idea, and it's like, there you go. was just really cool to kind of like hear your story of how you came in. A guy had been doing it for however long, then he went to go be a professional coyote hunter, and then you kind of like take over, learn trial by fire, and you found something that is optimizing Oxylance's transportation.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Dusty. We'll have to do this again. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. Thank you guys.
Yeah, Dusty Dog, appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
See you guys.
See ya. That was fun. A lot of good knowledge for brokers, out there. I love the thing about, if he made a meaningful connection, he'd just, refer them to some of their partners, which is, something not a lot of brokers ask. So it was great.
Yeah, 100%. And again, yeah, Oxylance is it's a really cool company. And I think that how he described it towards the end is the best way. If you're not familiar, it's just like a flammable lightsaber that they're cutting stuff with. I wish I had the images uploaded so I could present them on the stream, but no, they do great work, and they're good people over there.
Well, shout out to our sponsors, Multi-Service Fuel Card, been around since 1978. We've had Jamie on the show. He's a member of them. You can have one for brokers as well. Jessica, Patricia, great. Black Box, Will's company, HG Ships. Love to chat if you want to be an agent. Load Base, new office. We just talked about that pre-show. Check them out. Will's demoed their product. Great tracking software. Hit up Stan on LinkedIn. Sales Dash, Freight Specific CRM. We have some agents that use it. Will's company uses it. And then brought to you by Taft's Top 10 Factoring Company. Hit up Rob or Ryan. Great customer service. I think they're open till 12. Good rates, just all together good people, Kansas City based.
100%. Well, we'll be back at it next week. Stay tuned to the page for updates, announcements on the next show. And then, if you guys want to join us, we'll be on the Logistics Lounge tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central.
Sounds good. I'll see you there tomorrow.
Sounds good. I'll see you.